Now, where does this stack up to nature and nurture? I mean, what difference does it make against those things? I guess, is this the difference between good and great?
Well, it definitely. I mean, if you begin to harness this, you are not just the product of what you're given, or the fact that you may have had unfortunate parenting. You know, just to talk about it another way, my friend Peter Oliver, who's a restaurateur in Toronto,
Sure.
has created in his charity, the Leacock Foundation, what he calls a triangle of hope. And so he links an inner city school in Toronto with a school in South Africa, which he's building schools in South Africa, with a private school in Toronto. And you know, you can see what's in it for the other two schools. You sort of go, well, you know, obviously bricks and mortar for the people in South Africa, and for Derry Downs or the other inner city schools that he uses, over $100,000 a year to enrich their program so they're more like the private school. What's in it for the private school? As Peter puts it, they need to learn to see beyond the walls of their privilege. Like, is a perfect upbringing ideal? Are you going to turn out to your full potential with a perfect upbringing? Well, not necessarily so. And what I loved about Dabrowski's work was he pointed out how conflict and disappointment and setbacks were so vital to human development.
Now, we've all heard the cliche that what doesn't kill you make you stronger. Yeah. And you believe that in a certain sense, that adversity is part of development.
Yeah.
Yet it also can kind of create this sense of doubt, you know, that maybe I'm not good enough. What do you do with an athlete or an employee or a child who's confronted with stagnation, isn't progressing? How do you get them back on track?
That's a terrific question. And it really gets to the heart of the matter. Another way of saying igniting the third factor is to talk about building self-awareness and self-responsibility in the performer, whether they're in any of those environments that you identified. And to do that, of course, we have to move from telling and teaching and mentoring to questioning. And asking really good questions and using really good words that really get at what the issue is. And so often, for example, it might be as simple as sitting down, as I will, with 3 players who play together on a line, and asking them, now what is the one thing that if you could do it better would make all the difference in the world right now? Because ultimately you have to understand what's blocking them. And if it's confidence, then you have to go in and work on that.
But it's important that they come up with the answer.
Oh, they have to come up, that's right, because it's self-awareness, self-responsibility. Right. I'm not going on the ice, and neither are any of the coaches, you know? And so you're alone out there to a large degree. I worked for years with figure skaters. Man, you are never so alone as when you're out there surrounded by the audience. I mean, we could have an audience from some country that knows nothing about figure skating. Everybody knows when the athlete makes a mistake. I don't think she's supposed to be sitting on the ice right now. And so when the perception of the importance of the event and uncertainty start to change and modify, that's what creates pressure. Those are the two things we are constantly dealing with. And so we talk about becoming mentally fit, not just physically fit. And so if physical fitness has components like strength and cardiovascular endurance and flexibility, well, in mental fitness, we teach skills around perspective, imagery, which we already discussed a bit, energy management, and focus. And those are the areas we work on.
Perdita Felicien.
Yes.
I mean, that, to this day, I mean, Canadians remember that image of her falling on that
first hurdle. Yeah.
Is that devastating for an athlete? I mean, when an athlete goes through something like that, where the expectations were so high, I mean, she was absolutely the cream of the world, and complete failure. I mean, does it become that much harder to ignite the third factor for an individual who's gone through something like that?
Oh, yes, because, I mean, it takes a lot of courage to really look at that and say what really happened, you know, and it's easy to just go, it was just this, and fluff over it, and then, you know, you'll get somewhere else because the body never forgets. You know, it's astounding, isn't it? Like, there's an area I run through in the park I run in here in Toronto, and it's got to be 15 years ago now. There was a red-winged blackbird, had a nest in that darn tree, and every time I ran under the tree, it would dive bomb me, you know? Well, like, that hasn't happened for 19 years. As soon as I approach that tree, I notice my body language.
It's probably like the yips in golf.
It's the same thing.
You've got a bad memory there.
And so you got to get down to the root of it and really be willing to build a stronger foundation.
You also make the point is that the behavior of the coach or the parent of the boss has a huge impact on the athlete or employee or child's ability to really achieve all they can. Talk to me about that.
Well, first of all, I mean, you know, my metaphor for a coach or a parent or any leader is quite simply, you're just like a gardener. Like I can't reach inside your head and do anything with you. I mean, you have to do things with you. But what I could do if you worked for me is I could create an environment where you wanted to give more. Just the way the gardener creates an environment that gets more growth out of the plant. The good gardeners don't buy better plants. They're better at getting the growth out of the plants they're given.
Sure.
So too it is with good parents or good teachers or good leaders. You know, they manage the environment. And what I say to the coaches is the single biggest thing in the environment is you. Like, I can be the best gardener in the world, but if I don't watch where I'm walking, like, I'm going to destroy things.
So the athlete will internalize your behavior, your mood, your attitude.
More to the point, how are you going to move to high performance if I lack clarity when I communicate with you? If I give you an assignment in some sweeping, generalized way about, you know, Alan, just pull this together, you know, do some sort of a poll that somehow gives us some enlightenment. Well, you know, the minute I leave, you don't get right to work.
Right.
You got to figure out.
Scratching my head.
Well, you're scratching your head or talking to other people. It may take you hours to figure out what the assignment is.